It is hard to believe that a year ago on Pentecost, I was in South Africa. And you had Pastor Anita Hill here with you at Calvary. And arriving in South Africa at the airport, there was none other there to greet us and welcome us with open arms than Tom Lynn. He just happened to be there with a van to escort us from the airport to our hotel. And as I've been thinking about this week and this understanding of Pentecost, there's something so powerful about the idea of being picked up and placed in a new place, of being surrounded by people who speak different languages, who look differently. And yet there is also something so profound about the one who comes alongside, who journeys with you. For us in that moment, Tom Witt was that face of the Spirit, the one who came alongside as we acclimated and settled into this new place. And I love that in the gospel reading for today, Jesus uses the word paraclete, or at least that's how it's translated into the Greek, paraclete, which oftentimes simply gets translated as advocate, advocare, and for many takes on more of a legal tone of the one who becomes your advocate, who argues for you on your behalf. But really this is about the one who comes alongside, who walks with you, journeying, holding you, arguing for you, lifting you up, comforting, challenging, supporting, and nurturing. This is a powerful image when we think about this Pentecost Sunday. As Christians, we look to God who has come among us in the person of Jesus Christ. This one who comes to show us God's presence in human form. The one who brings healing, who brings hope, who teaches and breaks open the Scriptures. The one who offers new life. And now in the Gospel of John, as Jesus has been praying with and for his disciples, as he realizes the tumult that lies ahead for himself and for others, he is promising them something incredible. That they will not be abandoned even when this face, this image of God is taken from them. But rather there will be this Spirit, this paraclete, who will come alongside them, who will lift them, equip them, nurture and support, challenge and free them to be God's people at work in the world. What a powerful and wonderful image. That God is present, then and now, renewing and uplifting. We need to be honest, though. Lutherans, by and large, are not comfortable with this Sunday. We tend to like God as creator, God as maker, parent. It seems that we can relate and put God into more of a box. And we like Jesus, at least as we think about him, as a teacher and healer, as the anointed of God, the Christ. And then we've got this wacky Spirit. And we are not so sure what to do with the Spirit. Because oftentimes we like to pull ourselves up into our heads. We can talk a lot of theology till we're blue in the face. We can spend a lot of time studying social issue after social issue and writing statements that may or may not be read. But the Spirit is unleashed in the world, and it makes us uncomfortable. What happens when the Spirit alights on the people of the church and we can't contain her anymore? What happens when people begin to speak in new ways, new languages? And now, whether it's the languages of the Roman Empire that are, I think, lifted up in this text as a way of countering the realm of Caesar and the Pax Romana and instead proclaiming the Pax Christi, what we have here is a Spirit who will not leave people settled. If we go back to our first text from Acts today, the disciples, perhaps out of weariness, complacency, celebration of the festival, have come into the room, gathered as a community. And as they are there, the Spirit comes among them, bursting forth. What looked to be flames of fire on the face, above the heads of the disciples. A breath of wind blowing through the place. When we had confirmation last, we talked some about this. We had the kids pretend that they were experiencing an earthquake and shaking. What happens when the Spirit comes among us, blowing fresh? And all of a sudden, we look at the face of the other, and we see that the flame is also above their head. And that they are going out the door to speak for the people of God in new and profound ways. That becomes a challenge. And it becomes a challenge in terms of what does it mean to be community? What does it mean to be a community when we are sent forth and someone is speaking the language of justice at the Capitol? What happens when we are sent forth and someone is speaking the language of compassion at the hospital, at the nursing home? What happens when we are sent forth and the language is computer code that is sending out messages to others that are about transformation and hope? What happens when the language is about care for our neighbor who is being weighed down with debt, as we talked about this morning in adult education with payday lending? The languages may be different today, but we are being sent forth from our doors, equipped and nurtured, and to see the flames landing on the face of the other. We are met face to face with the Spirit. And it is the Spirit who comes alongside us and equips and nurtures us. But do we feel comfortable talking about it? The Spirit. Some of you see the Spirit when an eagle flies overhead, and it reminds you of a loved one who has passed away. Or the squirrel outside the window, or the cardinal on the ground. Some of you experience the Spirit when you are sitting in quiet, praying, meditating, listening to that still small voice, that light within. Some of you experience the Spirit as someone comes alongside you. A mentor, a friend, a spouse or partner. They hold you close to get you through the difficult times or really celebrate the latest accomplishment. You see, I believe that Jesus continues to send the Spirit today in so many powerful and wonderful ways, and we continue to see the Spirit face to face if we open our eyes. If we are willing to rest in that place, if but for a moment, and see the Comforter, the Advocate, the Nurturer, the Equipper, the Challenger, who speaks with us and through us and for us, who will not let us go. I'd like you to take a moment and think about one place in your life where you have seen the Spirit at work. What is that time, that moment, that journey, where you have sensed that you are not alone, but that God comes among you, to you? Are you able to name it? Or is it one of those things where words can't quite catch that moment? On this Pentecost Sunday, we allow ourselves to experience the Spirit unleashed in music and in word. We allow ourselves to see the Spirit who will not leave us in the same place. Whatever has brought you here this morning, celebration, broken heart, joy, wonder, depression, loss, the Spirit comes and lands upon you. And we look at one another and we meet that Spirit face to face. I want to end with the words from the psalm. It was adapted in the text for today. But it has to do with the send forth your Spirit, O God. And it's renew the face of the earth. I love that the earth is personified. That the Spirit meets the earth face to face in a spirit of renewal. In this time in which we think about global environmental crises, we think about the pain of the earth, the majesty of the mountains, the depths of the sea. What does it mean for God's Spirit to meet the earth face to face? And when we think about one another in this room, all that we carry and bear, the majesty of our lives, the depths of our pain, what does it look like to see God's Spirit meeting us again face to face? Let us hold on to those moments and dwell richly in the power of the Spirit who sends us forth this day and always in power, in wonder, and nurtured with the one who